Hey everybody, Dr. Rory Stern here of ADHDFamilyOnline.com, and right now I want to take a look at how do you diagnose ADHD. As you probably know, there are a lot of people out there running around saying, oh, you've got ADHD, she's got ADHD, this person must have ADHD. We've got friends diagnosing people with ADHD. We've got family members diagnosing us with ADHD. We've got teachers diagnosing children with ADHD. It's a very popular term. The media has really taken a hold of ADHD as a disorder, as a condition, so everybody thinks they know what we're looking at. So priority number one of how do you diagnose ADHD? First off, you go to somebody who fully understands it. You find a professional who specializes in ADHD or developmental disorders, developmental conditions. If it's a child, you don't just necessarily go to a pediatrician. You want to find an ADHD specialist who also understands children. If it's an adult, you don't necessarily just go to your primary care physician. You go to a specialist who understands ADHD and adult issues. And I'll get more in depth on that at a later point of who can diagnose. But right now we're talking about how you can diagnose, and part of that is finding the right professional. Finding the right professional is everything. The next piece here of how do we diagnose ADHD is we're looking at this, the DSM-4, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 4th edition. And in here, we've got these, oh my God, there's so much information in here about what is ADHD, what does it look like. But if we zoom in, and I don't think you'll be able to see it, so I'm going to make a checklist available on the website. You go to ADHDFamilyOnline.com and you check in the sample content department in the left-hand column. There'll be a checklist there for you. You can download it for free, print it out, and you can actually see what these criteria are. But what we're looking at here is there's a couple pages of if this, then this, and there are several criteria. There are, a bunch of bullets that you need to meet categorically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other criteria along with the symptoms. So it's almost like, it is a checklist, but, Dr. Cerulli, my colleague, talks about it as a cookbook approach. We put a little dash of this in, and if we have a little bit of this and we sprinkle this, it must be ADHD. Totally not the way it should be done, totally not a good way of doing things. But in terms of how do you diagnose, there are a list of criteria that we have to meet, and they need to be present for a certain amount of time. They need to have appeared by a certain age. They need to impact people in certain areas of life, not just one or two, or at home but not at work, or at school but not at home. All these very detailed criteria, and we are going to get in depth on all of them. What do they mean? What do they look like? What else could it be? What else is going on? Because diagnosing somebody with ADHD is really like being a good detective, okay? You have to really look at everything else. Dr. Cerulli says ADHD is a diagnosis of exclusion, which means before we can look at the problems or challenges being caused by ADHD, we need to rule out a whole other host of medical conditions, stressors, and other things that we don't really get into in this book. So this is a medical approach, a medical community approach, a diagnosis approach, diagnostic problem approach, and that's how ADHD is diagnosed. We're going to get in depth on that. We're going to talk about what to look for, but as a general overview of how do you get diagnosed, you go see somebody who specializes it. You get an interview, which is a clinical interview, a diagnostic interview, which is the gold standard. There are some subjective and objective tests and measures. We'll talk about those and what those mean, but really the diagnostic interview and doing a good history is the gold standard and what you really want to be focusing on how to diagnose ADHD. Find the right professional and you go from there. We'll get more in depth next time. Take care, everybody.